Now let us continue our study of the words of my perfect teacher. We are currently learning about the suffering of pretas in the chapter titled, The Defects of Samsara. Meditation practice on the common preliminaries is very important. Although my teaching on the words of my perfect teacher is so comprehensive that it takes much longer than that of other teachers, it is essential because many Dharma students have established a solid foundation for their practice, and their right views and faith in the Dharma are less likely to regress in this lifetime. Therefore, comprehensive teaching remains crucial. Some people claim to have had visions of the deity, or to have seen the Bindu essence drop, which I do not necessarily admire. After all, individuals differ in their chakras and faculties, so it's not surprising if some have special visions. The great Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche often mentioned in class, some people can see signs of practice even if they have not attained a high level of realization. Therefore, a person's state of realization should not be judged by whether they have seen the signs of practice. Instead, it should primarily be assessed by whether they have recognized and realized the fundamental truth in Buddhism through solid Dharma practice. Through studying the words of my perfect teacher this time, the fourfold disciples at Lorong Gar and many lay practitioners have developed conviction in the common preliminaries, which helps them better progress to the uncommon preliminaries. In the past, many of us may have only briefly heard about the 18 hells and the different types of pretas without taking the time to carefully reflect on the corresponding content, let alone meditate on it repeatedly. Now, through repetitive practice, many practitioners eventually realize that the impact of meditating on the mind stream is quite different from merely hearing the teachings. It is similar to the difference between seeing food and tasting it. Therefore, many sutras, such as the Flower Ornament Sutra and the Sutra of the Great Heap of Jewels, emphasize that hearing and contemplation must be followed by meditation. Recently, the Sangha at Lorong Gar was asked to practice ngondro in the format of a daily retreat. It seems you have been practicing well. I asked a few Sangha members, how is your practice on the defects of samsara? How is your practice on the impermanence of life? Given their responses, it appears many have indeed deepened their understanding of the text. I taught the words of my perfect teacher a few times in the past, either in Tibetan or in Chinese. Many Dharma practitioners may have received my earlier teachings, but the content of the text might not have fully penetrated their minds. This time, through applying the teachings in your daily retreat, many people have experienced a transformation of their minds after contemplating the content repeatedly. According to the tradition of Patrul Rinpoche and Tubga Rinpoche, a practitioner should not merely listen to the teachings of the words of my perfect teacher. The most important thing is to actually put the teachings into practice. Many individuals have joined to study and practice the words of my perfect teacher this time. Through this auspicious dependent origination, I hope this collective engagement will significantly assist future generations in following the proper sequence in the study and practice of Tibetan Buddhism. In a few years, if you can successfully complete the common and uncommon preliminary practices, it would greatly enrich the purpose of my existence in this world. The words of my perfect teacher is indeed the quintessence of all the Buddha's and Bodhisattva's precious instructions. Throughout my teaching, this text is explained in the most comprehensive way possible, providing you the opportunity to first understand it intellectually and then apply it in practice. This is indeed a rare chance for all of us. I may do many things in my lifetime, but teaching the words of my perfect teacher is among the most important. As for you, you may also do many things throughout your life, from birth to death, but if you earnestly study the text and genuinely practice accordingly, it will bring you immeasurable benefits in this life and in many lives yet to come. Therefore, please do not become weary during the study of this text. Some people who have listened to the teachings of a single scripture for an extended period may inevitably wish the teaching would end soon. Many prefer shorter texts so they can frequently change the focus of their studies. For example, they may enjoy attending teachings on Nagarjuna's letter to a friend today, the standards for being a good student and child, Dzi Gui tomorrow, and the commentary on Bodhicitta the day after. I do know how to teach such shorter texts, and I have translated many of them myself. However, in order to fully impart the most profound teachings of Tibetan Buddhism to you in a sequential order, I have decided, after careful consideration, to teach you the words of my perfect teacher this time. I may not accomplish many things in this short life, but if I do not face an untimely death in the next few years, I sincerely wish to contribute something to society and Buddhism. As for how to enjoy myself or what life has to offer me in the future, I have hardly given it any thought. Even if I had considered it, what I envisioned might not have come to pass, so such thinking is unnecessary. However, to contribute to society and benefit sentient beings, I must make plans and gain the support of others. Given my age, I will not be as energetic in 10 or 20 years. By then, even if I have not yet passed away, I will not be able to do much. Therefore, the next few years are very precious, and I want to engage in as many meaningful activities as possible. To fulfill this wish, I often pray for blessings from Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Dharma protectors so I can complete the current teachings. Later, when the causes and conditions ripen, I will offer you tantric teachings. I have received many tantric teachings from the great Jigme Phuntsuk Rinpoche. Although I do not claim to have attained great enlightenment, I believe I have some understanding of those teachings. I want to give tantric teachings to those who have established a solid foundation through ngondro practice. By doing so, even if I cannot accomplish many things in my lifetime, I would feel satisfied if the teachings can be helpful to you. I often tell the volunteer staff at Lurungar, consider this: if you spend 5 years on volunteer work and quietly contribute to the welfare of sentient beings, even if nobody knows about it, your presence at Lurungar holds meaning, and your parents' efforts for you are not in vain. In our lives, the opportunity to become rich or famous may come by chance, yet the chance to genuinely benefit living beings is much rarer and more precious. As for Dharma fellows outside Lurungar, please do not grow weary in your study and practice of the Dharma. The organization of the Bodhi Association should remain, and everyone is encouraged to join a study group to hear, contemplate, and meditate on the Dharma. For worldly endeavors, we cannot achieve meaningful goals without the support and collaboration of a group. The same holds true for Dharma activities. While individual realization can occur alone, the widespread propagation of the Dharma requires the support of many, which is beyond the capacity of 1 or 2 individuals. Therefore, I hope you maintain your interest in group study and remain committed to the group once you join, minimizing any tendency to quit. If a Dharma student can leave at will, what can they ultimately achieve? I believe we all know the answer in our hearts. Pretas who move through space. These pretas refer to the Tsen, Gyalpo, Shindre, Jungpo, Mamo, Furang, and others. When the pretas are mentioned, some may think they are merely folk tales or superstition. This perspective is misguided. In my book, Buddhism and Science, I use the personal experiences of renowned figures such as Zhang Taiyan to illustrate the true existence of ghosts. Due to a lack of understanding of the true nature of phenomena, materialists and some scientists accept only the existence of material matter, dismissing any mysterious phenomena beyond that. In addition, some practitioners claim that everything is empty, so pretas or ghosts do not exist. This perspective is also unreasonable. At the ultimate level, when the primordial purity is concerned, not only do ghosts not exist, but all phenomena also do not exist. This is articulated in the Vajra songs of Milarepa and Longchenpa. However, at the relative level, there do exist heaven above, hell below, and the realm of pretas in between, due to the delusion present in the conceptual minds of sentient beings. The Buddha introduces many different kinds of ghosts and spirits in the 12 volumes of the Great Consecration Sutra. These beings have various appearances. For example, some have heads, while others are headless. There are mountain ghosts, water ghosts, fire ghosts, road ghosts, and so forth. Ghosts are all around us, just as insects are everywhere outdoors in the summer. Some sutras state there are 84,000 kinds of pretas, while others say there are 6,600. Although the number varies, there are indeed a large number of pretas. After learning this, some people become too frightened to even walk. However, not all ghosts harm people. Some may cause harm due to karmic connections from previous lives, but others simply take their own food without harming anyone. Therefore, one should not be overly academic when studying the Dharma. It is not appropriate to immediately dismiss something mysterious as mere superstition or folklore. There are indeed many suffering beings in this world, and when you come to understand how they become pretas and how they suffer, your hatred toward them will dissolve. When you encounter unfavorable conditions initiated by them, you will not resort to extreme measures to drive away these beings or destroy them. Thus, Buddhist knowledge is very important because it allows us to cultivate compassion for all living beings. Without this understanding, when a person faces an obstacle created by ghosts or demons that hinders their practice, they may be tempted to harm them using powerful mantras of subjugation. Such an intention is truly troubling. The great Jigme Phuntsok Rinpoche said, "Some yogis have the capacity for subjugation, but not liberation. It is a grave fault if such yogis use the mantra to harm ghosts instead of liberating them. Therefore, in our practice, we must not harm any living being. Instead, we should use compassion to transform any adversity into opportunities on the path." I once read a story about a Rinpoche's experience in retreat. During his retreat, he was attacked by a demon. Initially, he forgot to show compassion and took on a wrathful form by visualizing himself as a six-armed Mahakala. However, the demon was not afraid of him. The demon then transformed into the appearance of Amitabha Buddha sitting on the Rinpoche's head. In that moment, great compassion arose in the Rinpoche. He realized that although this demon was powerful, it had committed misdeeds everywhere. How pitiful. As soon as he felt compassion, the demon turned into a small bird and quickly flew away in fear. Thus, the power of the secret mantras is encompassed by compassion. Any subjugation must be carried out with great compassion. All of the pretas spend their lives consumed by fear and delusions. Their minds are fixated on malevolent thoughts, driving them to harm others whenever possible. Many of them, upon death, descend even further into lower realms, such as the hells. Normally, we assume that pretas will harm us, so we do everything possible to subdue them. In reality, they have been reborn as pretas due to their misdeeds in previous lives, and in this life, they harm living beings in various ways, which will lead to their rebirth in lower realms again. Because of their continued wrongdoings, they cannot be freed from this cycle of suffering, life after life. How pitiful. Therefore, regardless of how pretas may harm us, we must treat them with compassion. We must not harbor malice to subjugate or expel them. Compassion is the foundation of all Dharma practices. Recently, I invited the renowned Tulkul Thupten Nyima Rinpoche to give a teaching, which was recorded on a DVD. As he mentioned in his talk, during the Cultural Revolution, when he witnessed opposition against Buddhists and the torture they endured, he initially felt angry and could not accept it. However, he then shifted his perspective, thinking, "Those who harm Buddhists are truly pitiful. How could they commit such misdeeds?" His entire perception changed when compassion arose within him. He continued to practice despite difficulties and did not waver in the face of adversity. During this challenging period, he managed to recite a concert of names of Manjushri at least 3 times a day, sometimes up to 13 times. He never ceased this recitation, not even for a day. Later, when religious policies in China relaxed, Thupten Nemo Rinpoche was invited to give teachings in many countries, earning a good reputation and favorable treatment. In these favorable conditions, he felt his Dharma practice did not progress as much as before, and he recited a concert of names of Manjushri less frequently. This reflection comes from Thupten Nemo Rinpoche himself, with which I strongly resonate. Indeed, when facing hardships, many practitioners may make significant progress in their Dharma practice, such as developing conviction about the suffering of samsara and cultivating compassion. However, once they attain wealth, fame, or status, it becomes difficult for them to return to their previous practices. Thus, favorable conditions in life can actually become unfavorable conditions for Dharma practice. As for pretas, we should calmly face the harm caused by their actions and must not be malicious toward them. This is also my personal experience from years of practice. Some people become very upset when they are sick, thinking, "Is a ghost making fun of me, causing my illness? I will recite mantras to get rid of it." This is not the correct approach. There is a story about a practitioner and a ghost in the older Sutra of Parables. A practitioner was meditating in a hermitage when a ghost intended to harm him. The ghost appeared in the form of a headless man. Seeing the ghost, the practitioner said calmly, "Without a head, you will not get a headache. Without eyes to see visual objects, ears to hear gossip, a nose to distinguish smells, and a mouth to taste flavors, you have fewer afflictions. How wonderful!" The ghost then transformed into a being with no trunk, only 4 limbs. It moved closer to the practitioner again. Upon seeing the ghost in this new form, the practitioner remarked, "Without a trunk, you will not feel pain or itch. Without abdominal organs, you will not suffer from illness. How delightful!" Next, the ghost changed into a form without hands and feet, approaching the practitioner from left to right, back and forth. The practitioner said, "That is better. Without hands and feet, you won't steal, which is what practitioners should avoid." Hearing this, the ghost immediately vanished. After a while, the ghost transformed into a dignified man who walked up to the practitioner, bowed to him and said, "It is truly admirable that you are so committed to the path. Soon you will attain realization." He then venerated and prostrated to the practitioner once more before departing. A true practitioner should reach such a state of practice, but for many people, it may be challenging to achieve this. Pretas are truly pitiful. What is especially unbearable is that regardless of whether they died from illness, were killed by sharp weapons, or committed suicide by hanging, they must relive the pain of dying in that same way, once every 7 days. A 21-year-old man in my hometown was perfectly fine yesterday, but hung himself this morning. It seemed that nothing serious had happened to him. Perhaps his suicide was impulsive. Unnatural deaths, such as suicide, are quite inauspicious. However, many worldly individuals choose to take their own lives, which is extremely unwise. The 400 stanzas on the middle way says, One sees that some who are overwhelmed by suffering long for death, yet entirely due to their confusion, they will not reach the excellent state. Some people are so overwhelmed by suffering that they commit suicide, hoping to escape it. They end their lives out of ignorance, which prevents them from embarking on the path to liberation. According to Schopenhauer, when a man's fear of life exceeds his fear of death, he will choose suicide. From a Buddhist perspective, committing suicide does not eliminate suffering. Rather, it results in being reborn as a preta, who then experiences the agony of suicide repeatedly. Instead of achieving a rebirth in a higher realm, individuals who take their own lives will continue to descend into even lower realms. Therefore, suicide is regarded as an extremely ignorant act. Especially after studying the Dharma, one should not commit suicide. Last year, someone told me, because of your teaching of the way of the Bodhisattva, quite a few individuals decided not to take their own lives. I do not know if this is true. Today's young people will inevitably face adversities, but after studying the Dharma, they should understand that everything is subject to causes and conditions, so there is no need to cling to anything. What is the use of committing suicide when their business or marriage doesn't work out? Life is so precious, we must live it well. As we all see, there is snow in winter and roses in summer. Can I mention roses? Those who intend to end their lives may feel even sadder when they see roses. Never mind that. In any case, a person who commits suicide can easily fall into the realm of pretas and relive the pain of suicide repeatedly. The pretas seek to transfer their suffering onto others, causing harm wherever they go. However, this does nothing to alleviate their own misery. Even when they joyfully visit former friends and loved ones, their presence brings only illness, madness, and other unwanted hardships. Therefore, these pretas are truly pitiful. We should recite the sadhana of fire puja for them. The Mahaparinirvana Sutra explains why we should make offerings to pretas. Here is a story from that sutra. Once, the Buddha walked to a barren field where a preta who had taken many lives would eat one person each day. The Buddha wanted to tame and liberate him. Since the preta could not yet accept the Dharma due to his violence and ignorance, the Buddha first transformed himself into a powerful ghost and shook the preta's palace, disrupting his peace. The preta living in the barren field emerged with his followers. Upon seeing the powerful ghost, he was so frightened that he fainted and fell to the ground like a lifeless body. The Buddha restored the preta to consciousness, resumed his form as the Tathagata, and imparted Dharma teachings to the preta and his followers. The Buddha bestowed upon them the precept of not killing. After receiving the precept, the preta asked, "My followers and I live on flesh and blood. Now that we've vowed not to kill, does it mean we'll starve to death?" The Buddha responded, "From now on, wherever my Shravaka disciples practice the Dharma, I will ask them to make food offerings to you." Therefore, in Chinese Buddhist temples, the Sangha makes food offerings every day before lunch and chants this verse, Garuda Kretas in barren fields, Rakshasas and Hariti, now the ambrosia is everywhere for you. As you can see, the pretas in barren fields are mentioned in their chanting. Tibetan practitioners make food offerings to pretas through fire pujas. There are two types of fire puja, the vegetarian one and the meatitarian one. The latter relies solely on flesh and blood, similar to tigers and wolves that cannot survive on grass. Therefore, blood, meat, or alcohol is added to the fire to nourish those pretas. Some people are the same. They only eat seafood and avoid vegetables. I even met a government official who said, "I cannot just eat vegetables like a yak. I am a carnivore." People who constantly crave meat will likely be reborn as meatitarian pretas after their deaths. The sadhana of the meat fire puja should be recited in the afternoon. When meatitarian pretas enjoy the smoke from the meat fire puja, they will no longer harm other beings. Therefore, practitioners should always remember to make offerings to pretas. While making food offerings, we should recite more of the mantra from the Dharani Sutra for bringing salvation to the hungry ghosts with the flaming face. Nama Sarva Tathagata Avalakite Om Sambara Sambara Hum. Meanwhile, we should also recite the mantra of Avalokiteshvara and the names of the 4 Tathagatas. This is what we practitioners should be doing regularly. Many senior practitioners in my hometown constantly think of benefiting sentient beings in their daily lives. For example, even when they go to the bathroom, sweep the floor, or take out the garbage, they recite mantras to benefit those invisible pretas. In fact, it is very important for a Buddhist to maintain a kind heart at all times. By doing so, regardless of what we are doing or where we go, everyone around us is a being we can help. Benefiting living beings does not necessarily mean we must become the president of a country to encourage everyone to commit virtuous actions. As long as we cultivate a kind heart toward beings in hell, pretas, animals, and humans, and genuinely care about them at all times, we can help countless beings. Conversely, if a person lacks a kind heart, when they encounter harm from pretas, they may easily feel inclined to seek revenge. These pretas endure relentless torment. Some individuals with supernatural power subject them to various forms of suffering. They bury them, burn them, and perform rituals that unleash an array of imagined weapons against them. They imprison them underground in total darkness for kalpas, incinerate them in sacrificial fires, and assault them with mustard seeds, crushed stones, and similar objects. Their heads are shattered into hundreds of pieces, and their bodies are torn apart into thousands of fragments. In the stories of Zerpashe Sakyajungne and Zerkung Pasheruptra, there are many examples of subduing pretas in such ways. Without generating compassion, practitioners must not subdue pretas with powerful mantras or subjugation sadhanas. Someone carries a Vajra dagger with them all day. Whenever they see a sick person, they fiercely recite the mantra of Vajra Kilaya, Om Vajra Kili Kilaya Hum Fat. Meanwhile, they glare at the sick person with anger, hitting and striking them, even tearing the person's clothes. Such actions may not necessarily benefit living beings. The subjugation rituals and mantras in Vajrayana are remarkable, and when performed correctly, they can be very powerful. However, the prerequisite for such practices is compassion. Otherwise, if you carelessly recite the subjugation sadhana and throw mustard seeds at pretas, given the power of the mantras of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, you can bring immediate harm to them, causing them great suffering for kalpas. These pretas are already very miserable. Like all beings in their realm, they experience distorted perceptions. The sun feels cold to them in winter, while the moon scorches them in summer. They cannot be freed from suffering at any time. If we worsen their suffering instead of alleviating it, we are not behaving like practitioners. In the highest view of Mahayana Buddhism, everything is simply a manifestation of our own minds, including pretas. Therefore, what can truly harm us is not external pretas, but internal self-clinging. Shantideva said, "All the harm with which this world is rife, all fear and suffering that there is, clinging to the I has caused it. What am I to do with this great demon?" All the disasters, fears, and torments in this world are caused by our self-clinging. Clinging to the I is the most terrible demon. Because of it, we are harmed by pretas and demons. Therefore, what a practitioner should address is not the pretas, but deep-rooted self-clinging. At the relative level, pretas do exist. but some people go so far as to reject anything they cannot see, which is not right. Others, in contrast, believe that everything is haunted by ghosts and demons, leading to unnecessary fear. In some Supreme Dharma centers, there is no space for ghosts to linger due to the power of great accomplished masters. In fact, even those with misguided views cannot remain at Larangar for long, let alone ghosts. Many people lack a sufficient understanding of the Buddha's teachings. Some individuals are too smart to accept the existence of ghosts, while others are so superstitious that they perceive ghosts everywhere. Both perspectives are misguided. As practitioners, we should first maintain an open mind regarding the existence of ghosts. However, when we are harmed by them, we should attribute all our ailments, pains, humiliations, and similar experiences to our own self-clinging. As the 7 points of training the mind states, lay the blame for everything on one. If you can do this, your practice will surely succeed. Of course, while being compassionate toward the ghosts and demons that harm us, we should nevertheless stop them when necessary. There is a story about an intellectual named Ta Zhou Ying in 4 Lessons by Mr. Yuan Liaofan. Once, Mr. Ying overheard a conversation between 2 ghosts. One ghost said, "A woman's husband has been away for a long time, so her in-laws want to force her to remarry. She is unwilling to comply, so tomorrow night she will hang herself here. Ah, finally, I'll have a replacement, and I can be free from the ghost realm." Mr. Ying really wanted to help the woman, so he secretly sold his land for 4 taels of silver, sent a letter disguised as her husband, and delivered the silver to her at home. The in-laws read the letter. Although it did not resemble their son's handwriting, the silver was genuine, so they stopped forcing the woman to remarry. Later, their son returned home, and the couple was reunited. Mr. Ying later overheard a conversation between the 2 ghosts. One ghost said, "I found my replacement, but Ying ruined my opportunity." The other ghost asked, "Why don't you harm him?" The first ghost replied, "No, I cannot. His kindness and virtue have been recognized by the gods. Therefore, he will be appointed as the minister responsible for keeping records of the beings in the underworld. How could I possibly harm him?" There are many such wonderful stories in Chinese Buddhism that elaborate on the profound doctrines of Buddhism in a simple and accessible manner, guiding people on how to treat pretas and cultivate kindness. We practitioners do not necessarily have to do something grand. The key is to have a kind heart. Through studying the Buddhist teachings, if your speech, actions, and mind become more virtuous and less afflicted, it means the goal of our collective study and practice has been achieved. Additionally, some pretas take the form of birds, dogs, or other animals, spreading disease and appearing hideous. In summary, the suffering of pretas is beyond comprehension. For example, during the previous outbreak of avian flu in Canada in 2004, 19 million chickens were culled. In 2009, people in Egypt killed 350,000 pigs in a single day to control the swine flu. More than 4.4 million cattle were slaughtered in the UK to eradicate mad cow disease. From a Buddhist perspective, such actions are extremely cruel. We would never kill a person suffering from the same diseases, yet other living beings are slaughtered even if they are healthy. The misdeeds committed by humans are appalling. Such plagues are the consequence of such brutal killings. Many people today are indifferent to the lives and deaths of animals. They do not truly understand the value and meaning of life. They may resemble humans, but their actions are not necessarily humane. Of course, we cannot expect everyone to adopt Buddhist values, but in terms of behavior, are you more human or animal-like? It is important for everyone to deeply reflect on this matter. All Dharma students should consider the following questions. What misdeeds did you commit before studying the Dharma? How did you treat other living beings before understanding the law of karma? How many beings did you harm during that time? How do you plan to repay your karmic debts now? After careful reflection, I believe that each of you has your own stories to share. As for me, even though I was born into a Buddhist family and grew up in a place where Buddhism has always flourished, I still committed some misdeeds due to external circumstances and my environment. Many of you may have found yourselves in a similar situation. However, after encountering the enlightening Dharma, we have awakened from our confusion, all thanks to the blessings of the Guru and the Three Jewels. From now on, each one of us should make a concerted effort to ensure that the second halves of our lives will be better. Although it may be unrealistic for us to completely uproot all afflictions and habitual tendencies immediately, we still need to make changes in our behavior moving forward. Otherwise, given the innumerable misdeeds we have committed in the past, whether we are aware of them or not, we may still be reborn as hell beings, pretas, or animals in the next life. It is akin to the way a person who ingests poison will suffer pain, regardless of whether they are aware of consuming it or not. We are truly blessed and fortunate to have encountered the Dharma in this lifetime. Every worldly being seeks happiness and often claims, "I am willing to attain happiness at any cost." But what is the difference between the happiness that worldly beings pursue and the happiness that Buddhists seek? A wise person should compare the two. In short, countless pretas suffer from external, internal, and specific obscurations, as well as other demons and ghosts. They endure excruciating pain. Knowing this, we should keep in mind the suffering of these beings and cultivate love and compassion for them. We should aspire to bear their suffering and help them as much as we can. Even when we spit, by reciting the mantra of Avalokiteshvara, it transforms the action into a great act of generosity. It is like pouring a soft drink on the grass in summer. A swarm of ants will naturally come. Similarly, when we spit or pour water, many pretas will be drawn to us. At that moment, if we can recite mantras with a kind heart for the benefit of the pretas, even if the water is impure, it can still bring them great benefit and prevent them from fighting and harming each other. Such actions may seem insignificant, but they deserve everyone's attention. In any case, we must have compassion for beings who are and will be pretas. Meanwhile, we should do our best to eliminate the causes of being reborn as pretas. True practice is essentially about gradually transforming one's behavior, not about boasting grandly or flying around in the air.